Well, hello, a very warm welcome to St Mary's Church. And we're here today because we're going to address one of the questions that you have asked. And it is a question that is all about worship. Christians gather here week in, week out to sing God's praise and to worship his name. And for many of us who have been brought up in the faith, worship is natural. It is what we do. Whether we're singing God's praise with our arms in the air or whether we're listening to a beautiful choral anthem, we know that worship is an important part of what it means to be a Christian. But why? It might seem a little odd from outside. Why does God need our worship? This could so easily be a question about God's personality, God's nature. If you were to reframe the question, you might ask, does God need our worship? Is God some kind of megalomaniac waiting for us to bow down before him? Well, it is true that worship is required of us. The Bible talks a lot about the need to worship. We hear it throughout. We are called to worship the Lord our God. And of course, Jesus talks about worshiping God. And so, why do we worship? Does that mean that there's something deficient in God's personality? Are we filling a gap? Does he need us to bolster his ego in some way or other? Well, no, I don't think so. I think God that we know from the Bible is self-sufficient. God in three persons, God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, is in perfect communion. And most expresses what it means to love. And so God doesn't need our affirmation, doesn't need us to prop him up. Worship, instead, I think, is a gift for us. It makes us who we are. You see, worship is what we give our devotion to, what we give our attention to, who we give our attention to. It is the thing we focus on. And Richard Rohr reminds us that what we worship can so easily become what we are. The God we worship can become who we are. There are many things that we can give our time and attention to. And of course, many of them are good in and of themselves. But sometimes they can become the very focus of who we are, because we as human beings are wired to give devotion, to give attention, to worship, if you like. In a world around us, so much energy, time, devotion, worship is given to so many different things, whether it be celebrities or athletes, whether it be our favourite football team, whether it be money or power or work, or even some idealized sense of family. And while those things in and of themselves may be perfectly good, if they become the very things that define us, we're missing out on something. You see, in our truest nature, we are called to worship our Creator, giving our time and devotion to the God who created the universe and who shows us what it means to truly live in a way that is good and healthy and wholesome, in a way that expresses love in the world. You see, the God we worship is not some kind of divine despot sat high above, judging the quality of what we do. The God we worship is the God who became a human being in Jesus Christ, who became a servant, who washed his disciples' feet. The God who in Jesus Christ walked the very roads that we will walk, suffered and experienced the pain that we will experience, knows what it is to be tempted and to be tested. The God in Jesus Christ is the God who held open his arms upon the cross and died for us, who gave up the glory of heaven that he might express God's love to us. This is not a God who sits way on high demanding worship from some kind of human subjects. But this is a God who calls us to worship, to recognize who God is, so that we might learn who we are in relation to him. That in worshipping we might find out what is truly important in our own hearts and lives. That we might be rewired or brought in sync with the God who in Jesus Christ shows us what it means to be whole. Worship shapes us, and we are called to do it as a gift given from God, that we might learn the true meaning of love, which is most dearly and most deeply expressed by the God that we worship. If you have any questions or thoughts about our responses to your questions, please do come back to us. We'd love to have a conversation about these things. But I hope that is some kind of response to the question, why do we worship?